Welcome back to Untamed Social, the podcast where we talk and get real about what actually works in social media. Today, I'm excited. We're tackling one of the biggest roadblocks brands face typically, which is coming up with fresh, creative content ideas that actually help you stand out because, to be honest, posting just to post isn't a strategy, which we've talked about a ton on this podcast. And I've got Ella Gunnell here with me today, the one and only person that is fit for this conversation in my mind. Ella is our creative manager here at Strella Social Media. She leads us in the creative department to deliver campaigns that are as engaging as they are effective. In my opinion, Ella's got a real knack for storytelling, branding, and helping businesses connect with their audiences in meaningful ways. She's got experience across multiple industries, and she really knows how to turn concepts into scroll-stopping content. So, Ella, thanks for joining today so we can kind of pull back the curtain on the creative process, because I think a lot of brands really want to know this information.
Yeah, happy to be here. You're really hyping me up right now.
We're close, okay? So just to give a heads up about what we're going to be talking about in today's episode, we're going to go over kind of how to generate endless content ideas, where to look for inspiration, and some simple ways to kind of transform one good idea into maybe multiple posts or even weeks worth of posts, because repurposing is a thing if it's done correctly. So to start, let's jump into, Ella, why do you think brands struggle to come up with creative content ideas?
Listen, my title is creative manager. That's it. That's got some weight to it, right? That's telling people that I'm creative. But even I struggle, right? It's hard to come up with something week after week all the time, even if you are good at creative ideas, even if you have a company that lends itself well to social media, maybe you have something that's highly visual, a more fun product, a more fun business, right? Even then, it's hard to be creative. Not to mention if you're a business that, let's be honest, does stuff that's a little bit more boring.
Yeah.
Maybe you're an accounting firm. Like, sorry, accounting firms. But it might be a little bit harder for you to come up with content that's creative. So I think that those are the two biggest reasons is like sometimes your content just isn't naturally going to be that fun. And so you have to like infuse it with that. And sometimes you just get a little burnt out, and that's okay too. So I think those are the two biggest things that companies will struggle with.
Yeah, I think the burnout is so real too, especially for like other social media marketing or management companies. They've got to understand it too. Like, it's one thing to run out of creative ideas when you're just thinking about your own brand, but for us, where we're managing, 15 brands at one time, it really it's a struggle. So then that leads to, okay, so when you do get stuck, or really any of us on our team, what is your go-to process for sparking that creativity again?
I think that one of two things for me is helpful, because some days are just not as good of days for me. Like, maybe you didn't sleep that much before. I have a baby, right?
Right.
So my brain isn't functioning on all cylinders.
Right.
So sometimes, like, literally just taking a break and coming back to it is helpful. I do think we have like creative bursts, and sometimes, or even like some hours in the day are better for creativity. For me, like, my creativity comes best when I don't have like a buildup of other things that I need to get done. And so
Yeah.
I'm thinking in the back of the head, like, oh my gosh, I have this, and this to get done. And so the creativity is going to be blocked because I'm just like feeling overwhelmed by stuff that I have to. So I would say for me, I like to get all of my other items done on my to-do list. So that way I have like space in my brain to actually devote to this. Or sometimes you just need to literally like take a break, walk away, go on a walk, like shut that part of your brain off, and then come back. In terms of like actually like you're like, man, I just can't think of any ideas right now. I would say go scroll on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, it's going to kind of like turn off that part of your brain and like just get you to like enjoy. Um, and second of all, you'll probably find some good ideas. Like go look at some other companies in your industry, or just go look at other companies that you like and that you enjoy following. That's going to be helpful. Um, and then I would say even AI is a really great way these
Yeah.
days. I know that people are kind of weird about it, and I understand that, but I think that when putting some information, um, we just attended a really great conference last week, the American Marketing Association conference, and they talked a lot about using marketing the right or using AI the right way to help with like idea generation in your marketing. And so I definitely do think there's a right way to go about that. We could do a whole other
Literally.
podcast episode on like all the tips and tricks to like actually get good ideas. But if you can get good at it, then AI is also a really good tool to help you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that also, like, it's talking about the AI thing, it's also important to know that, like, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to utilize the ideas that AI gives you, even if you are
Oh,
good at
yeah.
it. But the thing for me is that it will spark an idea for myself. So, like, we've got somebody on the
Yes.
team who helps me with my personal LinkedIn content. And so she sends me ideas weekly. And I always tell her, I'm like, I feel so bad because if she looks at my feed on LinkedIn, like, they're not the ideas that she sends me. But what happens is she sends me these ideas, and then it sparks something else for me that feels more natural and flows well as to who I am, and it's more authentic. So I think that that's a really good point too, is that just because you're utilizing either someone else or something else like AI, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to use those ideas, but they do help to spark creativity for yourself.
Oh, yeah. And it doesn't mean you're going, give me content ideas. It could be like, pretend that you're my audience. Ask me some questions that like my ideal customer might have about this, this, and this. Like there are several different ways that you can go about using AI to give you ideas beyond just
Yes.
like, give me a 30-day content plan. Like those usually suck.
Yeah, no, literally. And how many people are out there doing that, you know? Like, or one way that I like to utilize AI to help with creativity is that if I'm evaluating content that's done really well, I will provide AI like a lot of details about the post and say, this performed really well.
Yeah.
Can you help me to come up with ideas that are in the same realm as this, that, you know, I could kind of, you know, spin off into another lane with it? And that helps me also. I know I did that for LinkedIn, and it gave me like a bajillion ideas, and I just started making lists and lists and lists of content ideas. So I think evaluating kind of what's performed well is also a really good idea whenever you get stuck.
So true. Hmm.
So obviously, you know, we're a little bit different because we're a social media management company. So we're focused on other brands. We do, of course, focus on our own marketing, but typically we're looking at other clients. And who we're speaking to today is really going to be the brands who are in it themselves, looking at their own brand. So let's talk about, like, because it might be helpful, even though we are a social media management company. I think it's good to have that insight into what companies do. Can you kind of walk us through how you/we at Strella typically brainstorm ideas for a client's content calendar?
Yeah. So just thinking about like when we get a new client and we're thinking about like how are we going to like what's the strategy for them? What kind of content are we going to post? Um, how often, like things like that. I'd say the first thing that I like to do is when we onboard them, we say, who do you think your competitors are? And then we go ahead and we check them out, either because they're doing a good job or maybe they're not doing that good of a job. And we kind of like to see, like, oh, these people have high followers, but they get terrible engagement. Why is that? Or
Mm-hmm.
um, maybe the opposite is true. Maybe they are doing a really good job on social media. They're kicking butt. And we're like, okay, why, why is this the case? So we do a deep dive into their competitors, and I would definitely recommend that for any brands out there who are trying to decide what ideas like what should I be posting on social media. That's a really good place to start. But I also think that ideas can carry across multiple industries. So it doesn't just have to be your competitors or even people in the same industry as you. I would just go to companies whose social media that you like, and you would can kind of look at it and say, like, what can I take from this that would work in my own brand? What videos are doing well? Are they doing trending audios? Are they like, what are they kind of doing that is working? Um, and then I would just think about yourself as a consumer on social media. Like, what do I like to watch? What do I find entertaining? And what do I look at from other brands that actually like is capturing my attention? Like, as you're on Facebook or as you're on Instagram, notice the ads that you are actually like staying and watching or that you're scrolling by. Or even just like it doesn't have to be a paid ad. It can just be content in general. What's keeping your attention and what's not. So I would say if you're going to do a good job at managing your social media, you definitely have to be an active user of it, right? You're not gonna,
Yes.
it's not gonna come through. And in fact, that's gonna come through to your audience if you're posting content. Um, and like it's gonna come through if you are not a good social media user because it's gonna be obvious in what you're posting and it's not gonna
So
resonate with
obvious.
people.
Yes, I feel like that has been such a common theme this season on Untamed Social is that there's been this continuing conversation of when a brand is just being too much of a producer of content and they're not consuming enough content. And that's something that even with some of the people on the team, like if we're talking about strategy and really learning social media strategy, my first suggestion is always going to be just look at yourself as a consumer because a lot of times the content itself may not be bad. It's the delivery of it. Which is to me where the creative aspect comes in. I mean, if you know your business and your brand down to the core, then you're not going to have that much trouble coming up with like the messaging in the content is going to be. The problem is how do you deliver it creatively to keep attention, grab attention, and to keep them coming back for more. So I think that's a big thing is just like you said, like you've got to actually participate on social media if you want to see success. Otherwise, what are you doing there? Like you're literally just going to fall to the wayside and everyone's going to scroll past you. The other thing that I wanted to say too is you mentioned competitors, and I love that because that is exactly what we do. But in addition with that, it's easy to get trapped into like just looking at what your competitors are doing and what they're posting, and sometimes can lead to replicating what they're doing and maybe not having some originality. And I would say if you find yourself like in that space, because we've all been there, to stop looking necessarily at the content that's being posted, but to take a look at the engagement with the audience. Like, what are their followers saying? What questions are they asking? Things like that, because that's going to help you if you are in a place where you're like, okay, I don't know exactly what the crux of the content is going to be about. That's going to give you a lot of answers to see what are your competitors' audience asking for, what are they discussing amongst themselves. That's going to give you a ton of ideas. So that's a place that I would start if you're looking at your competitors for sure.
Yeah, I would say that's one thing I failed to mention is that like you're not just looking at your competitors to see like what they're doing well or what they're not doing well. It's also like how can I differentiate myself
Yes.
in this space because social media is so crowded. Like there are just endless people in your industry. Even if you're like, I'm kind of in like a unique industry, a unique niche, like people are already there on social media.
Yeah.
And that's the great thing, right? There's always an audience for what you have. Like I know I mentioned accounting firms earlier. Sorry, accounting firms again. But I think that people with businesses like that tend to think like my audience isn't there on social media. There isn't an audience for this, and there always is. So never think that like I don't care how niche your brand is, there's an audience for it. And so it's just a matter of how can I set myself apart and differentiate myself in this space that's just so noisy, so crowded.
Yes. And where are they? I mean, like, and that's the truth of it is that I think that like for a lot of brands, it should be simple. But I mean, I've been there myself. Like we're all guilty of it where you're like, okay, I know my audience well because I was my audience. Typically, a lot of times a brand starts because somebody finds a solution to something, whether it's a service or a product. They find it a solution to a problem that they themselves were having. And so you miss that a lot whenever you're so deep in like the everyday business operations. You forget that sometimes. So that's another thing to consider, is just understanding that you were your audience. So you have to kind of take a step back and say, okay, what was I wanting to know, you know, when that was me before I had this solution? And that helps a lot too. So audience is like a big thing in my opinion.
Huge.
Like you mentioned. Definitely. Okay. So then here's where I feel like a lot of people, you mentioned like accounting firms and it being boring, which is true. Like there's a lot of just like unsexy, non-sexy industries out there, and that's just the truth of the matter. But there's a lot of them, like if you think about like Nutter Butter, a peanut butter cookie, that's like what? You know what I mean? Like it's not anything crazy. So, you know, why are they doing so well? Obviously it's because they have taken a different route with their social media strategy to grab attention. How do you feel like, how do you balance creating content that's on brand with content that's kind of unexpected and made to grab attention?
Yeah. This can be tricky. This is making me think of an ad that I saw the other day. It was from Rascals, which is like a diaper and wipe company. You can tell what phase of life I'm in right now. But it was that trend. There's a trend going around. It's like a Nicki Minaj song, and you like balance on something.
Yeah.
Have you seen those?
Yes.
But they took it and they spun it. And so they basically, the lady was holding like a toy baby in her arm, and she was demonstrating. Yeah, it's not a real baby, but she was balancing, and then with one hand she opened up the white package and was pulling out wipes, and the caption was something like showing you how easy it is to still use our wipes one-handed, because that is something that we as moms have to do. We don't have a lot of hands. And so they took a trend that was popular on social media, that was getting a lot of attention, and they took that and they used it to highlight their brand in such a creative way. And that ad had, I think, over 1 million views, tons of likes, and people in the comments being like, I'm gonna buy this just because of this, like, of this ad. So that, I think, is a really good example of finding that balance, taking something that is trending and something that is going to get you attention because people are into the trend, but turning it into something that is on brand. And not only that, but like highlights something good about their brand. So I understand that that is really tricky. Rascals did it really well in that situation. A lot of brands really struggle to do it well. I think that you have to realize that not every trend is going to be for you. And just because other companies are doing it, if there's not a good way for you to do it, like you might miss the mark, and then it was worthless to begin with. Yeah. So you don't have to be part of every trend, but I do think if you can find a good way to do it, then that is, I mean, that's how you're going to see success on social media.
Yeah. You actually, it's so funny because you bringing up Rascals. So I haven't seen that specific video, but what I did see was another video about Rascals, and it was actually just another content creator. So this kind of goes into our next conversation, which is repurposing. So I love that this happened because I saw a video of a content creator originally, and she was holding her baby, and she was basically just shitting on Pampers. And she was like, Pampers, like, and she's got her baby in her arm, and she's got her wipes right there, and she's trying to pull the wipe out, and she can't. And she's like, I've had it. Well, the next video, Rascals sent her a PR package, tons of diapers, tons of wipes, and was like, try our wipes, do it now. And so that's the video that I saw. I don't know if you saw, did you see that one?
No, I didn't see that one.
Okay, so I saw that one of the lady, and she was like, okay, Rascals, and she's holding her baby and she's pulling it out. So it sounds like what they did was they took that for that content creator, which they got, a lot of reach there for themselves as a brand, even though they didn't post that content. But then they repurposed that and utilized it for
the same idea. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, like, that alone right there, like, it goes back to, okay, what type of content is performing well? It doesn't necessarily have to be something that you've posted yourself. But if you have, customers or clients who have seen success talking about your brand, how can you take their content, spin it, and come up with more creative ideas based on that? So that's one idea of, repurposing there. What are some other repurposing ideas that you have so that you can utilize multiple different pieces of content for one idea?
Yeah, I love repurposing. And I think that I just want to start off by saying that, like, I think that people fear that they're going to sound repetitive, or like, oh, I just posted about this last month, or like even last week, I just posted something about this last week. And I want people to understand that content on social media is short-lived, mm-hmm. and the same people might be seeing it, but probably not. You're probably showing it to different people every time. Your followers might not be seeing it every time. Like, Instagram is so different now that people aren't really seeing the people that they follow, their content in your feed all the time. And then thirdly, like, even if they are seeing it multiple times, that's okay, because people often need to see a message multiple times, and that's what's going to start building trust. So that's just my disclaimer. Like, yeah. Don't feel like you're going to post about something too much, and that people are going to get like sick or bored. I mean, if you're posting the same thing every day, that's one thing.
Right.
But people are going to want to hear, and odds are they're not hearing everything that you're posting. So just a general disclaimer. Now, in terms of how I like to repurpose stuff, I think that you can kind of run with the same content and repost it in different ways. So maybe one day you're doing a reel on it. Maybe one day you do a carousel on it. Maybe the next time you talk about it in a reel, you are framing it in a different way. So maybe you got a question about that, so now you're answering that question. I also am a big fan of series on TikTok in particular, which is literally posting about the same thing in multiple videos. Like, mm-hmm. You're kind of doing the same thing. And I think maybe people could view that as lazy, but series are huge for your growth and are going to keep, like, series are often what makes me find new people to follow, and then they keep you coming back for more. I think a lot of people who have found success on TikTok will tell you that series have been really big for them. So that's also a really good way to, like, run with something that you think that people might want to know about, and then just kind of keep the ball rolling. And then I think I mentioned this earlier, but, like, just depending on feedback, like DMs or questions that you're getting, comments that you're getting about particular content, you can kind of get a different angle on it that way. So I think that that's kind of the biggest thing. Is you talked about the delivery. Make sure that your delivery is different. So, like, what forms of content are you delivering? Right. And then, like, just kind of framing it differently. Like, are you answering a question this time? Well, maybe this time you are doing a talking head video about it. Maybe this time you're responding to someone's comment and putting it up there in the corner of your video. So there's a lot of different ways that you can go about, and or maybe you're posting about the same content type across different platforms.
Yep.
your TikTok talking head video about that probably isn't going to do well on like Instagram and Facebook. So taking something like, oh, this did really well on TikTok, I bet it would do well on Instagram and Facebook if I just tweaked it, right? So that's another way you can repurpose across platforms, just in different formats.
Yeah, definitely. Those are all like great suggestions, because I think people get overwhelmed with repurposing sometimes, and they think like it literally means taking content that did well 3 months ago and then just
Reposting,
which isn't necessarily the case. I mean, you can. We've definitely done that before if we, make a slight tweak in the beginning or change the hook a little bit. But typically, there are so many other ways to repurpose and to help to spark that creativity. Because at the end of the day, I don't feel like you should just be spending all of this energy and trying to come up with all of these ideas. It's not necessarily about your messaging. If you're having trouble coming up with ideas about your messaging, there's a bigger issue here. The real test comes into, like you said, changing the different formats. I love how you even mentioned replying to people's comments. That is a way of reformatting. If somebody responds to one of your videos and it's something that you can talk further about, definitely reply to that comment and just keep it going. Just like you said about a series and things like that. There's way to take one topic and just extend it out as far as you possibly can. Wait a couple months, revisit it again.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. Seriously.
Nothing at all. Well, Ella, you've given us a lot of insight, and I think there's some really good nuggets here for the brands who are out there who are feeling stuck with their creative ideas. Thank you so much for sharing your process and really how to create things that are scroll stopping and make you stand out more as a brand, and even for the boring ones. If you take nothing from this conversation, just remember you don't need to wait for inspiration to strike. There's practical ways for you to spark it yourself. So if you enjoyed today's episode, if you think that it helped you think differently about your content, make sure that you hit subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone whose social media is long overdue for a creativity boost. And thanks again, Ella. We will see you next time.
Thank you.
Hey, if you enjoyed today's episode and you learned a lot, imagine what you and your team could do with a fully customized strategy day. Our consulting boot camps are tailored to meet your biggest needs, whether that's boosting engagement, building content plans, or coming up with a brand new strategy. If you want to learn more, just hit the link below in the show notes.